For my past couple of excursions, I've gone north and south up the A1. This time, however, is an exception because I've gone west, to Milton Keynes to be precise. Yes, today on Dragon's Teeth, we're talking about my visit to Concrete Cow 25. Hi folks, I'm Rob Poyton. Thanks for joining me today. So Concrete Cow is a one-day RPG convention. I believe it's held twice a year. I think there's one in March, then there was one just this Saturday gone. We're in October now. And I went across for two reasons. One, I want to start getting out to more conventions and start playing a little bit more. And the second thing is I noticed that one of the games on offer, one of the sessions on offer, was a Mothership scenario. And this is a rule set that caught my eye recently because I'm looking at getting back into GMing and running some games. I'm involved in playing in Cult and a Rolemaster campaign at the moment, both of which I'm enjoying. But looking to next year, I want to get back into GMing as well. And sci-fi appealed to me, and I've heard a lot of good things about Mothership. I've heard that it's a very good system and that the scenarios are very good. So I thought this was a great opportunity to dip my toe into the water, so to speak. But before we get into that, I just want to quickly mention that I've got a new forum up and running now, the Innsmouth Forum. Yes, I've pretty much had it with Facebook. I'm still going to post on there. I've still got a presence on there, but I'm fed up of talking to AI bots. I certainly don't like the fact that my profile can just be taken down at any time, as happened twice this year, and all my posts and everything disappeared. You know, what's the point in building up a group if it can all just disappear overnight? So I've decided to shift everything over to an old-fashioned forum where we can have conversations about things. WhatsApp and Discord are great, but I find on those they tend to be better for little notices. Oh, I'm running this game. Anyone interested? I'm going to be there at this time. We've got this event going on, and so on and so on. So I was looking for something where people can post anything really, whether they're promoting their work, whether they're reviewing something, whether they're talking about films or music related to weird fiction, and we can get some nice actual discussions going. So I'd be obliged if you would hop over there, as we say in Innsmouth, and take a look and get involved. Okay, back to Concrete Cow. So this event is held at the old bathhouse in Wolverton, just on the edge of Milton Keynes. Nice and easy one for me to get to, just straight across the top of Milton Keynes, or is it the bottom or the side? I'm not quite sure what angle Milton Keynes should be viewed from, but yeah, well, that's another subject altogether. Anyway, a very nicely organised event. When we arrived there on the morning, the system they have for signing up to games is everyone gets like a raffle ticket. Your tickets are pulled out at random, and when your number comes up, you get to choose which game you want to sign up for. As I said, I was specifically interested in the Mothership scenario. There were a couple of others that caught my eye as well. There was a Cthulhuid scenario set on a night out in Birmingham, which would have been nice to have a try. Incidentally, it does go on all day, so there are two gaming sessions, morning and afternoon. Unfortunately, I had to get back for the afternoon, so I can only take part in the morning session. Anyway, my raffle ticket came up quite early, so I duly signed up for Mothership. And we were led by John, our games master, or warden, I think, in Mothership, down to one of the rooms. There were 3 rooms with games going on, and leisure games were there as well, selling various books and RPG systems. And I believe there was a tombola table as well. So a couple of other bits to look at while you're not actually gaming. I think I'm right in saying that none of the rest of us, there were 5 players in all, had played Mothership before, though I think one of the guys said he had the rule set and had read through it. So we were all new to the game, and John took us through the basics. We each chose a character, we were given our character sheet. Now, I'm not going to go in depth on a Mothership review here because I don't feel qualified enough to go into the nitty gritty, but I'll give a quick overview of how the system works, at least from my perspective. I'll talk about the scenario as well. It was called the Year of the Rat, though I'm only going to talk about that briefly because I certainly don't want to give away any spoilers, and I get the feeling that Mothership scenarios have a lot of spoilers in them. This is my character sheet here. I played a Teamster, a tech effectively, a pilot, and as you can see, we've not got many stats. If we compare this to something like Rollmaster, for example, very few stats, and the basic system is you have to roll under your stat to succeed in any task, or a task that the GM says you have to roll for. What I liked about this game was most of the time it was assumed that if you're reasonably skilled in something, you just do it. I mean, it's a bit like us, go for a drive, no one has to roll dice to see if they start the car properly and all that. These things are just accepted as part of your everyday work or life. We have some saves there as well. You see sanity, fear and body. We use the fear one quite a lot, which then relates to stress. Now, if you have to roll against stress, you have to get over that number. So you start off at 2, you have to roll over 2 in order not to get more stressed. Of course, as you fail, that starts going up and up. And we had a couple of instances in the game of people getting, well, let's just say extremely stressed. Of course, this being sci-fi, we have lots of kit. I think everyone had a suit of some description. We had 2 Marines who were obviously armoured up, and the rest of us had various types of hazard suit or vac suit. Now, when we play historical games, whether that's RPG or tabletop, even when we play fantasy to a large extent, everyone knows how things work. A longbow in a medieval game or a Robin Hood type RPG works just the same as a longbow in Middle-earth or D&D or whatever else you might be playing. With sci-fi, it's a very different thing. So the first thing that John did once he'd gone through the basics was tell us about the Mothership world, or universe, I should say. He did say that there was very little lore in this system, which personally I like, because if I'm running a game or if I'm playing a game, I don't have to read a load of background, a load of history. I don't have to remember when King whatever did this or that. We're straight in. And of course, if you've seen Alien or lots of similar films, you're going to get the idea very quickly. I think this is a game that is much more about atmosphere than, if you like, the technicalities. But it does bring us to this question of tech, which I suppose in a way plays the same role in sci-fi as magic does in fantasy to an extent. I mean, realistically, if we looked at a D&D world and the amount of magic there is, even a 7th level magic user or something can do quite amazing things. It's hard to see how that world would work. It's hard to see how that would be structured. So that's why in my games with magic, even things like We Want the Gold, for example, my skirmish game, yes, there is magic, but there's quite a good chance of it going wrong and backfiring. And that was what we have in Mothership, at least in this scenario, was yes, we've got tech, but it's that sort of 1980s sci-fi tech. So the computers, it's all green lettering. The lights are all a bit flickery. We've got radio comms and lots of static. So it's that kind of low high tech, if you get what I mean. This isn't like Star Trek where everything swishes open, and if you want to find out something, you just boop, 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 press into the computer and it tells you everything you need to know. So I like that. I like my tech and my magic to be a little bit unreliable. I briefly mentioned the characters there, and everyone played their roles very nicely. There was some real good role playing going on around the table. I had the bossy tech, as you've seen earlier. Her job was initially to pilot the shuttle to the Year of the Rat. Now, the Year of the Rat is a casino ship that has gone missing, and it suddenly turns up in this area of space where there are a load of derelicts. So our team has been hired by the insurance company in order to go to the ship, to find the black box, to find out what happened, in order that the insurance company don't have to pay out. So again, we've got this nice sort of moral ambiguity built in, which I always think makes RPGs much more interesting. So I'm the bossy pilot. We had two Marines, as I mentioned. One was the archetypal sort of jarhead macho Marine. We had another Marine. She was a little more nervous, and that nervousness was increased by a very nice touch because the android, played by Alex, I think it was, it just so happened that the android's picture on the character sheet was exactly the same as the Marine, Dominica, I think her name was. So Dominica effectively comes into this group and is face to face with herself, which is going to freak anyone out. And it turns out that this is down to the scientist who created the android or created androids, and they knew each other at school. So just off the cuff, really, because this wasn't planned at all, we had this nice dynamic already between the scientist and one of the Marines and the android, and that kept popping up throughout the game. In fact, the android made us all feel uneasy, so we had a level of stress even before we got onto the Year of the Rat. So we've got our mission, we've got our means to get there. We had a quick scan through the equipment lists that I believe come in the player's guide. But the nice thing was, if there was any questions, if we said, oh, can I use this to do that? John would say, yep, that's easy, or no, you need to make a roll, depending, of course, on how much pressure your character is under at the time. And there was quite a bit of pressure. So we find the ship, we dock, and our adventure begins. Our job is to find the black box. Bear in mind, the Year of the Rat is or was a casino ship, so we were thinking there might be lots of lovely money in there as well. And we weren't wrong. Of course, we found some other things as well. Now, we did succeed. We did succeed in our job. We found the black box and we got out. But it was a very close call. So it was a excellent scenario. John ran it really nicely as well. Lots of suspense. And yes, it's definitely built my interest in Mothership. So I think at some point later this year, I'll be forking out. I think there's a basic set for about 60 quid. And I think there's a deluxe set that is a little bit more as well. So as and when I do get those towards the end of the year, then I'll do a proper in-depth review. And of course, we'll get into running it and all the rest. Overall, really enjoyed the scenario. As I said, the tension built very nicely. It felt very cinematic in terms of referencing all those type of sci-fi films, but at the same time without being cliched or overly familiar. And I think with the sci-fi setting, it is quite adaptable. Yes, you've got your bug hunts, which I suppose is what everyone is going to immediately think of. We're going on a bug hunt. But this idea of salvaging old ships and what might be on them, you've got the idea of alien tech, you've got extraterrestrials perhaps of various kinds, you've got all sorts of intrigues going on, whether that's political or through the corporations. There's mercenary work. You know, you can spin off a lot of different types of adventure from your sci-fi setting. And it took me back to Traveller, which was probably the second RPG I played proper. I mean, D&D first of all, then Traveller, and Call of Cthulhu, maybe about the same time. I think Traveller might have been slightly before even. So it did for me capture that feel of good old-fashioned sci-fi RPGing. My only slight question is regarding the stress mechanic, because it seems like whenever you fail a task, you fail a roll, you then have to roll the d20 against your stress level. If you pass, it's okay. If you fail, you take an additional d5 of stress. This starts to mount up pretty quickly. And as I said, we had at least 2 instances of characters totally losing it. My own character spent several minutes staring blankly at the flashing lights on the console. I think the scientist at one point curled himself up in a corner and took out a comfort blanket. So, of course, this type of behaviour is very familiar to anyone who's played Call of Cthulhu. However, I did feel that having that role for every time you don't succeed, and you could be doing something quite normal, you could be trying to fix the radio, for example. I thought that up the stress levels very quickly. Now, it could be that that is just because this is a one shot. And I think in a one shot, that works really well because, you know, you've got 3 or 4 hours to play or whatever it is, and it really works to ratchet up the tension. As and when I come to running a campaign, I don't know if that will apply so much, or it might be something that I modify. I guess it's easier to do that when you've got a campaign going. You have a little bit more about your character background. People have a chance to flesh out their characters a bit more. If you're a surgeon, for example, would you be particularly stressed at seeing a body? You know, this sort of thing. So I imagine in a campaign setting, you can start to tweak it if necessary in order to make it a little less stressful for the players. You got to get that fine balance, right? It's the same in Cthulhu. If everyone goes mad every time, you're going to run out of characters very quickly. People have to make another character. And I would say you might even run out of players. Certainly for an ongoing campaign, you've got to hit that balance. That aside, I thought it was a really nice system, very streamlined, very easy to understand, very easy to use, and certainly something, as I said, I shall be investing in the near future. All right, that's it for today then. I'd just like to say thanks to the Concrete Cow team for putting on an excellent event, very well organised, very enjoyable, and I'll put the website link below, of course. Do check them out. Remember, they run a one-day event twice a year. And I'd also like to thank them for helping with their promotion of the Innsmouth Literary Festival, which of course took place a couple of weeks back. It's very nice, I find, in the gaming community in general. People are very supportive. We help each other out. You know, it builds a nice atmosphere. So do check out that link, especially if you're in the Milton Keynes area. Do pop over and have a look at our Innsmouth forum. And if you have played or run Mothership, I'd be interested to hear your thoughts, particularly on that stress mechanic. Thanks again for watching. As always, if you haven't already, please do like, share and subscribe and all that social media stuff. And I'll see you out in space where no one can hear you scream.